So, Boruto TBV Vortex Chapter 19 is about to be released, which means this is the perfect time for us to come up with our personal predictions about what is going to be happening in the next chapter. And I'll go first, and I hope a lot of these predictions that I have for this upcoming chapter do end up being true. And as you can see from the thumbnail of today's video, a lot of it actually has to deal with Konohamaru finally taking some sort of a W in this arc. Obviously, the panel that is being released is something that was shown on Twitter. I'll link the guy who ended up making this, but the art looks exactly like Ikimoto, although the dialogue isn't really quite similar, just to make sure that people weren't actually confused and believe that this was an actual panel. But just as we can see from this panel, we see a Konohamaru who ends up being clutch, who ends up actually doing something in this upcoming arc. And I do believe that he will have some sort of a fight versus Matsuri, who is obviously trying to kill Konohamaru, or at least trying to harm Konohamaru due to her current jealousy, and her feeling this new emotion as a Senju. She is going after Konohamaru. But I believe that we could see something that in the anime, we have already seen signs of Konohamaru having this ability, but in the manga, since Konohamaru hasn't really done much, we haven't seen this being the case, and that is Konohamaru having the summoning of Prince Enma. We have already seen Enma with Hiruzen in the Naruto series, and it was pretty iconic when we saw Hiruzen fight with the staff, and then that staff turned into a monkey, this ape that is so strong that he was able to go toe to toe with the likes of Orochimaru with the assistance of Hiruzen. In the anime, we have seen Prince Enma, and although he is very small at that moment, we could see in the time skip him grow exponentially, not just in his looks due to him becoming a lot bigger, but also in his power. We know that when it comes to various summonings, we have seen with Naruto that some of the frog summonings appear to be just small little toads at first, and then all of a sudden, not even a time skip was necessary, and then they ended up growing to such a big size. And I think we could see something similar with Prince Enma, who after the time skip at least has a bigger form in which he is actually able to help Konohamaru fight the likes of Matsuri. And this is what I believe could potentially take place. Konohamaru ends up summoning that staff, goes crazy versus Matsuri, but for some odd reason, and this doesn't come from any hate from Konohamaru, as a lot of people don't really like him. I am kind of neutral, don't really care for Konohamaru at all in the series, but I just don't see him winning. I don't see Konohamaru beating Matsuri in this upcoming chapter or any chapters to come. I don't see him taking Matsuri on in a 1v1 and winning. Maybe with further assistance, Konohamaru is able to take her down, but by himself. And when I say by himself, also including Prince Enma, I don't really think Konohamaru has the strength necessary to be able to take down such a foe. However, I don't see him dying either. So although he will not win, I don't see Matsuri killing Konohamaru in this upcoming chapter. The chapter could start off with Konohamaru, who is kind of struggling at first. He is put in some sort of a tree formation like we have seen Jura do with the likes of Himawari to devour her, but Matsuri is trying to devour Konohamaru in this instance. Then, just as some of the panels are showcasing, we have a Konohamaru that ends up summoning Prince Enma to free him and help him out fight against Matsuri. They fight for a little bit, where Matsuri at the end of the chapter, who does regain some of the advantage, or if they're going to go with a lot more slower pace and include other things in the chapter, we see near the end of the chapter, Konohamaru actually showcase Prince Enma. That's how I could see things going. I don't really see Konohamaru taking too big of a hit in this chapter, which tells us that he is eventually going to die in the future chapters to come. Maybe I am wrong, but maybe I am not. But the most important thing I want to see with this upcoming chapter, and to be honest, I know this was build up for everything that's going to happen when Kawaki gets his limiters removed, but can we finally see it happen? We have 4 to 3 chapters of intense build up, which means 4 months of us having build-up of Kawaki getting his limiters removed. Now is the best time to actually see that being the case. Kawaki getting his limiters removed, and he is potentially the one who ends up saving the guys in the land of wind. He ends up going to the sand after having this crazy boost in power, after talking to Amado and Amado removing his limiters. Then we get to see Kawaki fight a little bit and go and save the lives of Konohamaru, who is 1v1ing a Senju. They end up fighting, Kawaki ends up revealing some of his crazy new abilities that he now has under his arsenal due to his limiters being removed, or it is simply that he is a lot faster, a lot stronger, and Kawaki actually has a solid fight in the time skip, which is something that is needed for his character, and that's the way that Kawaki showcases his new strength after getting his limiters removed, and it would allow the Leaf to actually collect one of the guys' torn soul, whether it be Matsuri or whether it be Ryu, the first W that the Leaf would take. As although the Leaf gained new information when the Senju made an appearance at the village, I still wouldn't really consider it a W when it comes to the Leaf. I'd consider it more of a draw, or either the Senju did take a slight W due to the amount of havoc they wreaked in the village. But with them obtaining either Matsuri or Ryu Soul Thorn, it will allow the Leaf to actually take a proper W, and force Jiro to actually take them a lot more serious. It has been hinted that after this, if Ryu ends up surviving, the Senju will hold a grudge against the Leaf Village, and this may come into fruition by Kawaki actually obtaining one of their torn souls and ultimately reviving either Moegi or Shinki back to life, alongside saving the likes of Gaara. This is what I could see happening, not exactly in just this chapter. I think in this chapter we'll either just see Kawaki get his limiters removed and then make his way to the Land of Sand, not all that extra stuff where he actually takes care of the Senju, but that's what I believe could happen if this chapter is Kawaki focused. However, if Kawaki is not getting his limiters removed, the only thing I would like to see then is Kawaki at least implant his karma onto Akabe. Kawaki does end up doing what Amado wants so he can finally get this monstrous power, this monstrous update to his genetics and getting his limiters removed that we have seen Kawaki beg Amado to do time after time. This would be the moment for it to actually be able to occur, with Akabe then being revived, and then we see an Akabe, and I don't know if we see an Akabe be alive immediately, as we do know that the karma has some sort of data process in which the data is being copied onto the vessel, so maybe it would take a couple years. We see that with Boruto it didn't take him too much time, but that was because of his karma resonating with the likes of Kawaki. So if Kawaki, Boruto are all around the likes of Akabe, maybe the fact of her copying her data may end up not taking too much time due to the karma resonating. Either two options: either she is back to life immediately and is slowly turning into an Otsutsuki, or she is slowly coming back to life after a period of time, which she would then come on to be an Otsutsuki. In my opinion, there is no outcome where Akabe comes back to life using the karma where she doesn't turn out to be some sort of an Otsutsuki. It wouldn't really make much sense to me unless Amado ends up lying to everybody saying that, oh no, she's not an Otsutsuki, she just happens to be a random person. That's my personal opinion. So in my personal opinion, the cover of this chapter is either going to be Akabe, Kawaki, or Konohamaru. Either of them end up taking some sort of a W, so I would love it to be Kawaki or Konohamaru. If it is Akabe though, then we know we have to get ready for some crazy lore dump of a lot of information being revealed. But what I really want to see take place finally is Kawaki getting these limiters removed. I've been waiting for this minute for a while. Kawaki fans have been waiting for this too, and it's their moment to rejoice. Maybe we also have to see Boruto. We didn't see Boruto at all last chapter. Maybe we do see a bit of Boruto here and there. I don't know exactly what will take place, but Boruto making an appearance is something that may be overdue at this point since we didn't see him last chapter. But this is my personal prediction on how things could end up going, and I did post a community post, and although some of those questions were not included in the last video, I wanted to make sure they were included in this one. And the most liked post was by Sixpath, and this is what he says: I think we may see Sarada use her Mangekyo Sharingan next chapter, or very soon after. Remember, she first unlocked the MS when she was under immense emotional distress and confused. When Sasuke first used his Mangekyo Sharingan in Shippuden, the anime showed him going through his memories as if he was triggered in an emotional experience. Maybe Sarada has to do something similar to use her Mangekyo Sharingan, and its setup is perfect right now given she is around two Senju who wish to hunt and kill Boruto, and she now has conflict with Sumire, one of her best friends, due to both of them having feelings for Boruto. Sarada is probably an emotional mess right now, which could cause another evolution in the Sharingan or MS. So this is what I personally think. I think this is pretty perfect in my personal opinion. I really like the path that he is going. One of Sarada awakening her Mangekyo Sharingan due to all the emotional burden that she is currently feeling. One point that has been made quite clear since the beginning of the arc is the fact that Sarada is not in her right mind. She is thinking about everything, and the way that she has been acting. Is she considerate of other people's feelings? Is she being selfish? All these current emotions, especially as a woman when it comes to love, is something that has definitely been affecting Sarada. And one thing that has always been quite clear with Sarada is that when we've seen her awaken her Mangekyo Sharingan, at first in the manga, it was related to Boruto, all the distress that Boruto was going towards. And right now, she is also feeling emotions that are related to Boruto. She is trying to be of more use to Boruto, and in this mission, she wants to help out Boruto by collecting more information about the Torn Soul and dealing with some of the Senju to lighten the burden on Boruto. Because during their conversation with Sumire, although she does mention the fact that Sarada is being inconsiderate of her feelings, but she also mentions the fact that Sarada is also being inconsiderate of the feelings of Boruto by always getting in the way by trying to do too much. So in this arc, we have a Sarada who has an opportunity to be of more use, to actually be of more use to Boruto by doing something noteworthy. So she is in the prime position to actually be able to reflect on those emotions, build solid resolve, and end up using her Mangekyo Sharingan in a moment where she feels like she is not living up to expectations, and then through that emotional distress, she reawakens the Mangekyo Sharingan as she has done in the past, and then ends up going crazy with her abilities. So I definitely agree with this. And we've seen something like emotional distress and confusion due to new information being received, with like the fact that Sasuke ended up figuring out that this entire time Itachi was helping out the village and was not the bad guy. This emotional distress due to the new information that was presented to him ended up leading to him now awakening the Mangekyo Sharingan and going absolutely crazy in the chapters to come when he finally gets to use her Mangekyo Sharingan. Sarada is in a similar situation in addition to her love for Boruto and the fact that she is dealing with not only Boruto and trying to be of help, but also her friend who she has been neglecting. But she's also on top of that dealing with the fact that she hasn't told anybody apart from Mitsuki, who knows that she is in love with Boruto, and somebody who is in love with Boruto, she would want that feeling to be expressed, and the likes of Sumire, who wants to be with Boruto. In addition, she wants Sumire to also know her current feelings. All of this confusion will ultimately lead towards Sarada awakening great power and demonstrating that in this upcoming chapter. The next comment is by TM1X, and it's a pretty long comment, so I think we'll wrap up the video with this one. We'll break it down into multiple different parts and give our personal thoughts. I really hope Sarada will shine during this fight against the Senju, but we will still lose, which would further prove how strong the Senju are, and Shikamaru will be to blame for the mission. Then he will be suspected for conspiring with Boruto. The daimyo and elders will take action, but then Boruto and Kawaki, now working together, abduct them and Shikamaru becomes a dictator. So this is the first part of his theory, and I do see what he is saying here, the fact that we want Sarada to actually go crazy, but for the Senju to be strong. This is a sentiment that I personally agree with, and I understand where he is coming from. The fact that we want Sarada to go crazy, but we don't want the Senju to appear weak. And I think what the authors are going for here is the fact that we have a Sarada who is going crazy, but she is going crazy alongside other people. So if Sarada has her Mangekyo Sharingan and she then ends up showing these different abilities, it wouldn't be like she soloed Ryu by herself. Ryu has been somebody who was able to fight against the likes of Code, but in this instance we have Ryu who's fighting not only Sarada, but he's also fighting the likes of Mitsuki, he's also fighting the likes of Ayara and Yado. So all of this combined will ultimately lead to us feeling that although Sarada was able to go crazy, we're not gonna take it from her, it's not that crazy for Ryu to end up losing to them due to the amount of people that he had to end up fighting. But I think it is fair in that instance. But now going back to the mission and Shikamaru potentially being blamed. I personally don't know if this story will exactly go down the path of Shikamaru becoming this sort of a dictator. It is a pretty cool idea though, but I'm kind of iffy on that being the case. There is definitely tension being built up on the daimyo and the elders when it comes to Shikamaru's current predicament, whether he will stay in office or they're feeling some type of way when it comes to Shikamaru still being Hokage. But moving on, the next part of the theory says, on the other hand, we have Kurama, who hopefully is unaffected by omnipotence and will tell Himawari all the info. On top of the fact that Shibai cast omnipotence on Amado a few years earlier and made him develop cyborgs, plus led to him discovering DNA, similar to what Amado did to Obito, to maybe save the planet from other Otsukis and Senjus because he started to admire mankind. So I really like the first edition when it comes to Kurama potentially not being affected by omnipotence, and this may be due to the fact that he was not technically alive and a full-on entity at the time. However, one could argue that since Damien was able to sense some sort of power coming from the likes of Himawari, then it is fair to say that he was actually alive at the time and thus was potentially affected by omnipotence. It could be some very interesting data to see that since the Nine Tails is technically just chakra, so maybe he's not actually affected. That could be the case, so that's why I'll let you guys let me know in the comment section below whether you believe Kurama is affected or not. And Shibai playing some sort of role is going to be quite interesting, because how did Amado really obtain the body? Was it Jigen that gave it to him, or was he the one who found Shibai's corpse, or Shibai is the one who led to him finding the corpse? I really don't know what to say about that theory, and I will let you guys let me know too. It is a pretty interesting thing. And the rest of the theory of what he is talking about deals with Sarada potentially overusing her Mangekyo Sharingan and how that could affect her. And this is where we go to my personal favorite theory of Sarada potentially using the Byakugo seal. This is something that her mother did end up having as a shinobi. She still has it till this day, the marking. And if we see Sarada go down that similar path, and it would make a lot of sense, there is nothing really at this current moment that tells me that she doesn't possess the capabilities of having the Byakugo seal. We know that she isn't the best at medical ninjutsu when we saw her in the anime. Whether it is canon to the manga or not, it is something else to discuss. However, when we're simply discussing the fact that she does have her mother's genetics and it is an ability that her mother used, we could argue that it is very possible for Sarada to have the Byakugo seal. And due to the Byakugo seal's healing properties, Sarada may be able to keep those abilities, those Mangekyo Sharingan abilities that she has, without potentially overusing it like we saw other Uchihas do in the past, which would basically mean that she has an infinite Mangekyo Sharingan without actually having the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan. That would be quite interesting in my personal opinion. But with all of this happening, it tells me that Kashin Koji really planned for us to have awakenings of various characters like Konohamaru and Sarada. And if you want to figure out how this entire fight that we see right here is Kashin Koji pushing Sarada to awaken her Mangekyo Sharingan, watch this video right here.